1. Hi, this is Damien from AtHope, and I am an axiological atheist, which can be understood simply as a value theory or a value science atheist. And I'm here with a very exciting guest. Could you go ahead and tell us your name and a little bit about you?
Hi there, thank you so much for inviting me to speak with you. My name is Madeleine Black, and I am currently in Glasgow, Scotland, speaking to you.
Right on. And so I was really wanting to talk today about your book that you have. That to me, I generally like books that have a really great message for the world. And I really feel that the message you have may not be one that the world wants to hear in a sense, but it's one the world needs to hear, because I think there's a real, I don't know what the word is exactly, but it's like society likes to not see it, even though it needs to, because to not see it is actually to re-victimize, to me, the victim. So could you please tell us a little about your book?
Sure. So my book is my memoir, and it's called Unbroken, and it really is my story of being gang raped when I was 13 by two American teenagers, and it follows my journey of survival, of healing, of forgiveness, transformation, and hope.
Wow, that's a pretty powerful thing. I experienced extreme child abuse, especially religious child abuse, but also sexual abuse. So I can really relate to you. And could you go into that story, if as much as you feel comfortable telling us?
Sure, I really am okay about telling it, which is why I do tell it, because that's one of the reasons as well, because I want people to know that you can learn to get to a place where you can be okay as well. So it's something that happened to me very, very easily, and it started with something that I'm sure most people have done, and I lied to my parents about where I was staying that night, and a girlfriend and I decided to buy some alcohol, meet some boys. I don't know how we managed to convince the off-license that we were of age, because you have to be 18 in the UK. I was only 13, but we managed to buy a bottle of vodka, and we got very drunk. We went to a cafe. I knew one of the boys, but these two young boys put us home in a taxi to her mum's empty flat. Her mum was away, and she was meant to be with her grandma, and I was meant to be at her grandma's, and we lied and said she was at my house, and so we had an empty flat. And it just became very clear very early on that they weren't there to put me to bed. They were there for something else. My friend was put in another room, and it's very interesting what takes place when you're being raped. I wasn't really present in that moment. I did whatever I could, which I didn't do on purpose, to leave my body. I was very aware of, for a long time I counted in the room that I was placed in, they had a border around the top of the walls made up of bows, and I counted these bows over and over again, and there were 44 bows, which is a number that follows me now everywhere. But then after a while, I floated out of my body, and I was really kind of quite surreal, because I was sitting on top of the wardrobe watching myself on the ground with these two young men, whilst I was also up on the wardrobe. And then one of the last things I remember is that they held the knife against my throat, the knife that they had already used on me, and said if I told anyone that they would kill me. Wow. And I really believed them. But the next morning I woke up, my friend was now in the bed next to me, and they had disappeared. I was naked. There was now traces of blood, excrement, semen on my body, and it was very, very hazy, and my journey has always been about retrieving my memories and getting back into my body.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful stuff. Can you say what is the thing that you would tell for other people that are survivors in that kind of a situation?
What would I tell them?
Yeah, like what did you learn? What would you say for? In other words, like some people can go through experiences and they're traumatized, and other people kind of go through it and are traumatized and kind of learn something from it. I know, like I can see from my own experience. So being under extreme unkindness a lot of my life actually allowed me to see that there's a real need to be kind. I need to go out of my way to be kind, even when people are in other words, what I used to do is I used to feel I was justified in anger. In other words, what I'm trying to say. So, because I felt like the world hurt me. I had been hurt by my parents. I felt like I've been discarded by the world. So here I am, and that's what I'm saying about your sake. I'm trying to ask you, like, what's your experience, strength, and hope? In other words, it's kind of like this. So my experience was that I had this stuff happen, and it made me just hate everything and everyone. I felt like the world was plastic, and nothing mattered. I felt like I was just thrown away. I didn't matter. I didn't care about myself. I did reckless, seriously harmful behaviors.
It all sounds very familiar.
Right. So I mean, but I'm saying is so. But I started becoming I wouldn't say I'd never really hurt women, but I did do some random. Like one time, I just ran across the street at 14 and just started punching this guy in the back of the head at the bus stop. No reason. Just felt. I just was so angry because it really.
I do believe that what we don't speak about, it leaks out of us in different ways. And with me, again, very similar to you, it leaked out of me. I felt completely worthless, contaminated and dirty.
Yes.
I had attempted suicide. I was locked in a children's psychiatric ward for 8 weeks. I was anorexic. I took drugs, alcohol, anything to numb out, to forget. And I didn't really know then what I was forgetting. I was very fortunate that I met an incredible man who I've been with for 35 years.
Wonderful.
And he really showed me that, I know, I'm much older than I look. He really showed me that I was lovable. You know, by him loving me, I couldn't understand why he wanted to be with me to start with, and I would drive him mad. But what do you love about me? Why do you want to be with me? And by him loving me, he showed me that I was lovable and that I could also love in return. And just what you're saying, I just think that love will always win. Hate, when I was angry and full of hate and revenge, it was only hurting me. They had no idea, you know, and then it took me so long to have my children. I decided, you know, after this had happened to me, I wanted to become a mother because I thought that giving birth was going to be like being raped again. But my husband and I were away, and he would ask me the question every now and again. And I was all ready for my usual response of, you know, I can't have children, I'm not going to do that. But something came in from somewhere. I don't know what it was. And in that moment, I just thought, well, if I never have children, then these 2 young men would have won. I'd be giving them all my power, and I don't want them to have that over me anymore. And it was then that I came up with my plan called My Best Revenge, and that would be to live a life as good as I possibly could. And that's what I feel like I've done. But so I thought becoming a mother had healed me, and I was really going okay. And then my eldest daughter turned 13. I went on to have 3 gorgeous girls. But Anna turned 13, and then all the memories started to come back. All the flashbacks, all the nightmares, all the body sensations. And I thought I was really going mad, actually. I thought if it was so bad, then surely I would remember it. But now I understand, because I'm a psychotherapist, it's because it was so bad, that's why I didn't remember it. And your mind will store things until it really thinks you're ready to face them. And so I went back to therapy, and I wanted the therapist to take all the memories away. And I realized that they couldn't take them away, that actually I would have to learn to face what had happened to me. But that was tough. That was about 3 years of nightmares and 3 years of going back to therapy. And at the end of the day, I had to really look at what was done to me and thought, well, you know, they didn't kill me. I am still alive. I am still here. And I just refused to be identified by what had happened to me. And I saw that once I had worked the trauma out of my body, and I did many different types of therapies, not just talking therapies, but lots of body therapies, lots of different kind of plant therapies, body work, loads of different things. I saw that then I had a choice, that I could be seduced still by my trauma, or I could choose to let it go. And I really just chose to let it all go.
That's a very interesting word, seduced by your trauma. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
That's very interesting. I think that I'm kind of the same way. It's like I had to realize, you know, what's more important, my anger about what happened or my strength to overcome what happened. And I realized for me, it's my strength. And so that's why I try to give the same thing that you do. I want to give hope that you can have all this happen and you can still do good. Because to me, it's not like these scars that made us, you know, it's what we do after the fact.
Absolutely. It's not what happens to us, it is important. It's what we do with what happens that really matters. And you know what? I didn't get to this space overnight. Like you, it's been a process, and it's just many layers and many layers and many layers. But I was just determined to clean it up. I just refused to be identified by what had happened to me.
I'm very proud of you. And I appreciate what you're doing. It needs to be done. I mean, we need to talk about the things that are uncomfortable because nothing's going to change in silence.
Absolutely.
Nothing.
Yeah. In my book as well, I'm very honest. It's very raw, and I write down all the details. And initially I wasn't going to. My editor said, you are going to put all those details, and I said, no way, I don't want people to know. Then I saw I still had some shame in me to work. And he said to me, it was a friend of mine who actually lives in LA, and he said, as a man, it really helped him to understand what can take place during a rape. He thought that a woman would just be overpowered or a man would be overpowered, and that would be a rape. And he said when he read what I had written previous to my book, it made him understand about the violence that can take place. And so he said, you have to put it in. And he kind of worked with me, and I said, okay. And then I got my contract with my publishers, and they said, I don't think we can include all those details. I said, no, they have to go in. Now that, I'm not ashamed anymore, I want all the details to go in, because I know, especially since I've, written my book, and I do lots of speaking events now. I go to different events, conferences, schools. So many people get in contact with me. So many people share their story. Most days I have survivors speaking to me, sending me messages that I just felt I didn't want to sanitize all the details. I didn't want to tidy it up and clean it up and make it nice and acceptable. We have to be shocked and disgusted, because it should not be taking place on this planet in the 21st century.
I completely agree, and that's why I'm an out feminist. I tell people all the time, an anarcho-feminist. I believe that it's not just in public that women need to be safe. It's not just in public that women should have power, but women should feel safe and have power in the home. And like you said, going out and getting drunk and not worrying about being terrorized. I mean, I want a better, safer, kinder world for everybody.
It sounds a good world to be in, but I've often wondered why it takes place. And for a long time, I think my anger actually wasn't directed at them. I think I was just angry at life. And I couldn't understand why. What's the point of violence? Why do we have all this violence? Well, what doesn't make sense? And then I really saw that we're just an immature species living on the planet, and we've got a lot of growing up to do.
Yeah, and I think that your part in what I'm trying to do too, get out the message of kindness and hope and care is what's going to change stuff. It's going to make the difference.
Yeah. Well, something happened when I was going through therapy, and it's not what I ever intended to do. One day my therapist said to me, maybe these two young men weren't born rapists. And I was completely outraged to start with. I thought, how dare he tell me that these men that I thought were animals and, just evil men, sadistic animals, how dare he tell me that they weren't born rapists, that they came into the world just like you and I. But I used to have a manager who was also a midwife, and she said to me that she has delivered thousands of babies and she never once met an evil baby. And that always stayed with me. And the more I thought about what he said, he kind of planted a seed, and that seed started to grow. And I really wanted then to understand what had happened to these two young men. Why had they behaved like that on that night? How could they be so violent? What had they seen or heard or experienced? And I didn't intend to, because I had fantasies of somebody kidnapping them, tying them up, beating them up, torturing them for 4 or 5 hours, just like they had done to me. But I started to take all that into my heart, and I felt compassion towards them, and I started to feel forgiveness for them, because I thought, I really decided to change my life, and I've lived my life as best as I could, but I think they've got to live with what they did, and I think that's going to be a lot harder for them.
Yeah, when you said forgiveness, I don't think forgiveness is important. In other words, like, there's no counseling or therapy that I know of that's forgiveness therapy. There's no clinical studies on the power in the sense of forgiveness as a global thing. Because the only reason I say that, because a lot of people that are victims are under the opinion that they have to give forgiveness. I'm not saying you can't.
That's not what I tried to do.
Yeah, so I wasn't saying you can't, but.
Yeah, because, for me, once I forgave them, and I didn't need them in front of me, I didn't need to speak to them, it was something that took place internally. Inside my heart, I forgave them. But I can't ever forgive the act of rape because it was a total violation of my body and my mind and my soul, but I could forgive them for their wrongdoings as a human being, for the path that they took that night. And it's nothing really to do with them, and I would never promote it for anyone else. This is what it took for me to do my journey. And this is what it took for me to let go of all the anger and hate and rage, and it just brought me in peace. But there's not a one-way fix everybody. I completely understand it, and I would never tell anyone, in order to heal, you would have to forgive. This is just what worked for me.
Oh yeah. Well, I wasn't saying that. I just wanted to clarify that because I have a lot of listeners. I know that you might too, but I'm just saying because I hear people all the time say like I can't forgive, or yet, or who says you have to? I mean, to me, forgiveness in general, like what I think of it is, it's somebody repents or asks, for forgiveness, and then I feel that they've done enough or whatever, or actually, compassionately sorry, and then I forgive them. That's my general thought of forgiveness. So to me, I do understand what you're saying. For me, I stopped allowing the what had done to me to invade my whole life, like to be, in other words, I feel like what happened to me all of a sudden became my emotional lens. I saw the world. The world was angry. The world was going to hurt Damien all the time. And so then Damien needs to hurt them in advance, or be ready to immediately hurt them. And, but the kindness for me was actually, I had a therapist when I was 17 in a drug rehab. I was super violent. The therapist says, everybody wants to send you to the psych ward, but I understand you're just hurting and you haven't been listened to ever. And I'm going to listen to you. And it was amazing the moment that someone just showed me that at the time I felt undeserved kindness. And
it's that connection, and it's being understood and it's being heard. And I think there's nothing more powerful than being listened to and being believed and really being heard.
Yeah, and that's why I appreciate what you're doing, because you're, in a sense, I feel like you feel like you're giving your story, but I feel like a lot of times when we give our story in public, we're giving the story to the people that are listening. In other words, I mean, when they hear what's happened to us, they can say, yes, someone in a sense is talking for me, and I don't even have to.
Yeah, well, I first shared my story before I wrote my book on the Forgiveness Project's website, which is a website which collects stories of forgiveness, and that was 2014. And I just completely underestimated what the impact would be. And the founder of the organization, a woman called Marina, she refers to us as story healers rather than storytellers. And there is real healing that comes in sharing our narratives, sharing our stories, not just for me as a victim, but for other people to hear the stories and for them to realize, maybe they've had similar experiences, or maybe they're stuck somewhere. And it just offers them hope and offers them a different way. And her collection of stories is just really how we can transform our pain into something else.
And I think that's a beautiful thing. In fact, I really like art therapy and stuff for people, because I think it allows us to get our voice back. Because at least for me, because so much stuff happened to me as a child where I felt I had no voice. I didn't actually like talking to people. I didn't like writing or anything. So I basically just drew my feelings. And
I didn't speak for 3 years.
So that's very interesting. So I think it's because I feel like a lot of people think, like, they hear me now, like, oh, I'm so brave, and like, you talk about it to anyone, tell anything. Yeah, that was not how it was. I've had 20 years of counseling. Trust me. My first thing, I didn't want to talk to anybody.
35 years to share my story publicly, so it's taken me a long time, and that's what I wanted to really stress before, that I didn't get here overnight. It has been a process, and exactly the same for you as I listened to your journey. It's been a process. You have to go through the anger and the hurt and the disappointment and all the letdowns, and until you find a way. But I just want people to know that there is a way, and everyone's way will be unique to them, but there is a way.
Yes, and I really appreciate that, because I think that's one of the feelings I felt was just hopeless. I felt like no one cares, and nothing's ever going to get better, and I just felt hopeless. I didn't know how to talk, and like you said about no one believing you. I felt as a male a lot of times. I remember when I first said my mom sexually molested me, my sister said, "What did she do? Touch your pee-pee?" Like, as in somehow if she did do that, that would have been okay. Well, if the dad had touched your, genitals, would that have been okay? No, it would not. In fact, she went to counseling because my dad had done that. So it was even worse to me. How dare she, of all people, who I had been there when she said that it happened to her, disrespect, but I feel like that you're talking about not being believed, like somehow as a man that couldn't have happened to me.
I think it's much harder for men to speak up and share their experiences because exactly what you experienced, people will ridicule you, or men that are in a domestic abuse situation. Well, couldn't you fight back? Couldn't you have done something? Or it's much harder for men to find their voice. It's hard enough for women, but for men. But I think things are slowly changing. I recently was in Bradford, just down in England, and I was speaking at a conference by the Blast Project, and it's specifically just for men and young boys that have been sexually exploited, and they asked me to share my story at the conference. And yeah, you can see it's much harder for men.
Well, yeah, and also, if anyone listen, I'm not just saying like poor me, like men have it bad. I'm just saying that I think women have it terrible, and I think there's another unique and also terrible thing that men have to go through. They just like the Me Too movement, is going on, about women having sexual harassment in the workplace. I have been sexually harassed in the workplace by a gay male, and everybody played it off, including I was so mad he only got 2 weeks suspension. I said, why isn't he fired? If I was a woman, would he have not lost his job? They said,
I doubt it.
Well, maybe not. Maybe I was delusional. I had a false...
But any harassment, it doesn't matter what your gender, it should never be tolerated. And I'm hoping now with the Me Too that it's going to bring about change. That, when we look back in my children's generation, they'll say, well, there used to be sexual harassment. Hopefully it will become a thing of the past. And now it won't be tolerated because we've opened the doors and it's been like a tsunami as we've seen this outpouring. The hashtag Me Too, I read a statistic when it first happened, the second time around when it first happened. Within 1 hour, 1 million women had retweeted Me Too. That is unbelievable statistic.
Yes, it is. And it also shows how much it needs to be talked about, obviously. I mean, it's this important. It's I know some people were mad. I'm like, I'm happy. Bring it on, all of it, and expose everyone. I mean, absolutely. Even if the people that are being exposed are, in a sense, what you think are your heroes, wouldn't you be happy to know that once they're exposed, they operate like a hero, not like a scumbag, and say, oh, all these bad things and put down the women and all this? Wouldn't you like them to, if they are your hero, won't they act like a hero? Won't they say and support that?
Yeah, unfortunately, we've seen the really ugly side of the Me Too is that the rape culture and the victim blaming, and people focus on the woman. Well, what does she expect? And no, it should never be on the victim. It should always be on the abuser or the perpetrators. That is exactly where the shame and the fault lies.
I agree. In fact, I had this one argument one time because I said, to me, it starts with that everyone is a dignity being. You're deserving of full respect and full dignity. And everyone, I don't see male, female, it's just, you're a dignity being. So you're not, in a sense, you're a female second to me. First thing you are is a dignity being just like me. Everyone on the whole planet. So it allows me to see people on a more value-centered level. I don't see people anymore as, I'm not saying I have extra characteristics, I have a colored beard, but that's not the same as who I am as a person. So there's all kinds of extra add-ons in a sense, but I see the quality, the uniqueness that we humans are. And then so to me, I start with that thing. So because I respect that, then I start to see everybody in a sense as just another me. I have got to respect. And for me, that really it shows that what they don't do, that's what I'm trying to say. They do not see the dignity of people. They only see the outside. Damien has a red beard. Must be a jerk-off. Must be a, whatever. And,
but that's just judgment.
Well, totally.
Judging. Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm saying, I think that's the thing is that it's so easy to judge. I always think that to me, when fear is left unchecked like that, when we don't bring understanding, it always is that it becomes uncomfortable. Things that are uncomfortable, we have this desire to not be around or not to have out there or not to see or deal with. And so to me...
and sometimes I use the word understanding in place of forgiveness because it really was about my understanding of these two young men. I reckoned that they couldn't have had the best start in life. And they were sons of diplomats. They came from a privileged background, but I wondered what they had seen and heard, experienced, and it was my understanding that brought in my forgiveness or my compassion in my heart for them, and I did start to feel more sorry for them than I did for me, because they had to live with it. Well, and I know how it leaked out of me, it's going to leak out of them as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry that they are being that way. I'm sorry for you for what happened to you. But I am also proud of who you are despite of them. What a champion you are.
Oh, thank you. Well, I know that if we really choose to, we can get past anything that happens to us in life.
Yeah, I think that the thing that I used to think is I had to do that alone.
Yeah.
That I had to get by, but I had to do it all alone, 100% alone. And I think that for me, healing actually was the opposite. It was this, because I finally got to the point where I felt like I can't do it. I cannot do it. I cannot deal with this all alone. But then I realized, but why am I acting like I am alone? Here I'm a world of people, and I'm
because you didn't trust the world.
Didn't I? Well, true, I did not trust the world.
That's why you were alone.
But so what I realized is, no one's a friend. Maybe I should start being a friend. No one seems to care. Okay, maybe I should start caring. No one seems to make you feel like you matter, right? I felt like, you know what? Maybe I should just start doing that. I should start making people matter. I realized the world that I wish to live in actually started with me. That maybe I can't control the world, but you know what? I can make myself a difference. I can be so different that I make a difference in the world. And just like that's what I feel you're doing, and why I want to, have you on. And I like having people that are intelligent and caring, because it's people like that will change the world to me.
Well, it's emotional intelligence, I think, rather than brain intelligence. But yeah, it's operating from your heart rather than from your mind. And that's exactly what you're doing. You've dropped into your heart. Despite the most awful start in life, you are still able to drop into your heart, and that's fantastic.
Well, yeah, I come from poverty. I come from violence, even violent areas, being born in Los Angeles. And then but most of my life, it just, like I said, I realized that I was looking out instead of me being the one being out. In other words, I was more fearful of the world and ready to attack it than I was really living in the world, present in the here and now. I try to do that now. I just try to be so authentic and so caring and try to make a difference I can right now. All I can do is be me. Yep. As authentically as possible, as caring as possible. And it's amazing, like you're doing too. When you do that, it does change, if nothing else. I'm already feeling happy.
Absolutely. I mean, I was one of the many fears and phobias I had. I was just scared all the time. I was scared of men. I was scared of being out of control. And when I decided to have my kids, I thought, what would be the point of having my children and replacing them, putting all that fear onto them? I saw many ways that my fear operated, and I decided to examine my fear, and I saw that a lot of my fear was based on what had happened to me, and a lot of my fear was based on what could happen to me. So my fear really was just my imagination. It really wasn't real at all, and I had used my fear so much that it was preventing me from living. I wasn't spontaneous. I wasn't alive. I wasn't enjoying my life. And I thought, God, I've survived all of that, had my kids, and I'm just going to be shut down still. I'm shutting myself down. There's nothing to do with them. And so I decided to challenge my fear. So I would put myself into situations that made me most scared, which was mainly being around men and being out of control. So all the male environments I put myself into that I could, and the ways that I could be out of control, I found those as well. And I realized, my fear was just my imagination. And I saw, like you, that everything is where we put our attention. If I focus on all the really dark stuff, guess what I'm going to see? The really dark stuff. If I focus on all the beauty, I'm going to see that as well. And if I think I'm wrong about something, or if I think I'm right, both of those are correct. It's where we put our attention. That's always what it comes down to for me.
Wonderful. And so you could you clarify, because you said put yourself in situations. I don't want the people to think that you were like putting yourself in possible places to be raped or something. I mean,
no,
I'm just saying. I'm not saying you were saying that. I'm just saying that you said I put myself in a lot of dangerous areas around men. I'm I want you to clarify that, because
for example, I always worked in women's organisations, and when I was training as a counsellor or a psychotherapist, I would only see women again, and men terrified me to be in a room. So then I saw what I was doing, and so then I would ask for only male clients. So all my clients for a few years were just males, and then I was actually working with a man who'd also been raped at 13, and when I saw how he responded and how he reacted, I thought, that's just like me. And then I saw that he was just another human being sitting in the chair opposite me. So that was one way I got used to working with men. And other ways, you know, I learnt to windsurf. I'm a power lifter, so I'm in the gym with, you know, great big guys. I do karate. I'm a black belt karate, and most of the class there's maybe 2 women and about 50 guys, 2-3 times a week. So these are the kind of things, you know, I wouldn't go out in the dark. I wouldn't go to the end of the garden to put my rubbish out. I would get in my car and put the buttons down. So I stopped doing all of those things and just challenged myself in ways that I used to inhibit my life, the ways that I used to shrink my life, and, you know, just really was on autopilot for a long time.
Yeah, and I know, like, I do a lot of activism all the time, and I've had death threats for the kind of activism I do. In fact, I'm going to Indianapolis to speak out against Mike Pence's desire for Christian theocracy government in America. And I don't mind people being religious. I do mind people saying that I have to live under your religious ideas. That
should live and let live.
Right. So I'm not going there to protest Christianity per se. I'm going there to protest his desire to make Christianity the government. Mm-hmm. So, but anyways, one of the things that I realized is someone said, like, aren't you worried about stuff like that if you were to be killed? And I said, you know, I want to live my life in a way that I don't fear my death, that I'm so proud of the character of my life that I could look back and be smiling. Because I realized that at the end of the day, if I was taken to court, could I be convicted of a life lived in love? And I don't know, but I sure want to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'd rather a life that was governed and ruled by love than one that was governed by hate. And interestingly, on the Forgiveness Project, Marina has a collection of stories, often by victims like myself, but from perpetrators as well. So we have quite a few formers, you know, people that were white supremacists or they were in hate groups, and they have completely flipped their life around, and now they have organizations where they promote peace and they promote respect. And that really showed me that everybody has a chance to really turn their life around.
Well, I think we should certainly try.
Place of hate and turn it around. You know, some of the guys, there's one group called Life After Hate, and one is an ex-white supremacist and one's a Sikh guy, and they go off together and they do talks and give seminars, and it's just beautiful to see what they're doing. It's amazing work.
Yeah, I think it's really good when people go out. Like I said, I really appreciate it. I also would like to hear more about. So I know you're a psychologist. Is that correct? Do you
psychotherapist?
Sorry,
that's okay.
I keep forgetting. Apologize.
Okay.
But so, do you work with clients of rape or trauma, or do you just generalize?
It is general, but somehow I seem to attract most rape and abuse clients, but also it's because it's so much out there anyway. It's, you know, most of my clients will have experienced rape or abuse. I do seem to get more than the average psychotherapist, so somehow I'm just attracting them in. But I know, because of what I've been through, that I can listen to anything and nothing will shock me, so I can be very grounded and be there for someone. When I was looking for help myself, I would go to counsellors, and within about the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I knew they couldn't hear what I had to say, and I would just go on to the next one. I'd go on to the next one, and eventually I found someone that could really hear what I had to say and wouldn't be shocked and wouldn't be disgusted. You know, that was really important to me.
Yeah, I think that is important. I was wondering, though, do you ever deal with transference or countertransference issues? Because I don't, just so you know, I don't think that transference or countertransference on a light scale, like not, you know, extensive, is even a bad thing. I think in a sense it could actually improve, like, you know, like the forming, storming, norming, performing. I think to get to a good performing, in a sense, I think it helps if you somewhat connect on a deeper level than superficial caring.
Well, the way that I work is always really about integrating your mind and your body. It's very much about experiential rather than thinking. It's not just mind-based, it's all of your body, because as we know, our memories are held in ourselves. That it's not just up here that we think from. We really feel from our gut, right deep in our belly. So I really get my clients to integrate, and most of all, I get most of my clients to connect in, to really be grounded rather than to be out there, because most clients come in and they're not connected to themselves, they're not grounded, and whatever the issue, that's the most important thing for me. So if I can be as grounded as possible, I can be a mirror for them. So I guess, yes, there is transference and countertransference, but I would only ever bring it up if it was an obstacle, if it was causing an issue. But it goes on all the time. And from a therapist's point of view, it goes on for me as well.
Like I said, I'm not saying it was a bad thing. I was just saying I could see where in this kind of a thing, like, in other words, if they know in advance, right, because you know about your therapist, then you're already going to have something that, say, a regular therapist doesn't, in a sense, have to deal with. The person doesn't know their personal life, in a sense, or their history. Not always, because it depends on what level you're going to share with people. Because, like, I do a lot of interviews. I don't always tell people I've been sexually abused. You know what I'm saying? Almost like probably 10% of the time I tell it, so because it's not. So I was just saying that I know if you tell it, it changes everything. Like our conversation. I mean, I feel like I have a closer connection with you because of my shared experience. And I don't know about personally for you, but I would imagine.
Within a session, in the UK, we don't self-disclose. But then I've now had people that have come to me because they've heard me speak, or they saw an article in the paper, or they've read my book. So, yeah, that's very different, because I'm not meant to self-disclose, and then they know they've read all this exposing memoir about me. So some people will come to me because they're survivors as well, and that's okay, but I won't really answer questions about me. Because it's not about
so in other words, if they right, so I get what you're saying. So if they ask you, then you just say, I refrain from discussing that?
I don't refrain. I would just be interested why they want to know how I felt, and I would really try to direct them back into their connection with themselves, how it was for them, why, because sometimes when they ask a question about me, whatever it is, they're like, where are you going to be away? They're disconnecting from themselves. It's a way of dodging. Clients are very clever. It's a way of avoiding. It's a way of getting back into themselves. So, if we disclose, then it's really, we're taking over the session. It's not about them anymore. It's about us. So I do have strict boundaries. And I will always get them to connect to themselves. And if I feel that they're ducking and diving and trying to, ask me questions, I will just put it back to them and see why do they need to know that? That's interesting. They're asking me about, and we're really here to talk about them.
So for me, I don't always cry, but sometimes I cry when I experience other people's feelings or when I hear about them. Not because I'm trying to, it's just like being a human. I cry
along with my clients as well. I can't not help get moved. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say I don't know that I could be talking to a whole bunch of people about abuse over and not feel like crying. I mean, but I was thinking that. Do you feel it's beneficial? Not just that you cry, but I was going to ask, because I almost feel like sometimes when I'm that open and allow myself to cry in front of people, it allows them, although they feel maybe uncomfortable, it allows them to see that that's okay, in a sense. Yeah. I just want to add your ideas on it.
We all think that we should avoid being vulnerable, and actually it's in our vulnerable moments is actually when we grow. It's actually when we expand. It's actually when we become more authentic or real. We were so scared of ever showing any weakness. That's just what society has done to us. But it's in the sessions when my clients are really being open and raw and honest and really connecting into some dark and painful places. That's when the magic happens.
Yeah.
That's when they grow. That's, like me, I wanted to go to counselling to take all the memories away, to have a lobotomy, but I couldn't do that. I had to really learn to face them all and stay steady in the memories, and eventually the energy or the sting associated with those memories, those images, it does go, and now they're completely diluted. I have no effects at all. I don't have any side effects. I don't have any flashbacks, nightmares. It feels completely neutralized for me. But it took a lot of work.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I would say my PTSD is more cyclical in the fact that I agree with you. Most of the time now I'm okay, but sometimes something will happen and I'm messed up. In fact, I watched a TV show. I don't watch some shows because if it's horror or serious abuse of women or children, I get affected. I can't. I watched some show called A Head in the Box or something. It's about a woman who was kidnapped. it was, I was for 3 days. I mean, it rocked. I was so messed up emotionally. I was like, I'm never watching stuff like that again. So, but it reminded me that I was okay, like you said, to be okay. I was okay, totally okay, not thinking about it. I said, back in the whole world.
But then it's, as much as it's tough, it's really good evidence for you to see, okay, there's another area in my life that I still need to clean up. There's another part of me that wasn't as healed as I thought. That's where my work is. So it's really good that we're shown these things.
Well, yeah, because
but good.
Well, I agree, because before that happened, it was about a year ago. I thought I was totally almost fine. I'm like, I think I'm doing really good. I'm totally okay, I'm not good. I'm totally not totally good. Okay, I got to work on that too. Wow, that was.
It is a journey, and now, even though I'm not suffering any PTSD or flashbacks or side effects, it's different stuff now that's happening, and I think we can only get to this place once we really work it and clean it up and learn to be okay, accept all that was happening. It was actually, when I had all the memories come back, the memories weren't what was causing the problem. It was my denial of the memories. It was not wanting to believe it. That was what was fucking my head up even more. It wasn't actually what I was seeing. It was horrible what I was seeing. It was like a porn film running around my head, but it was the denial of it that was really causing me major discomfort. So when I really learned to accept it all, God, it was so much easier. Once I really realised, they didn't kill me. I am still alive. I am still here. It's not happening anymore. That was when everything just dissolved.
Yeah, I would say for me, the first thing was that it being okay with being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because like you were talking about, see, I'm like 6 foot. I'm really big and tough in a sense.
I'm like 5 foot.
I'm just saying my issue is a little different. Being so big and tough, and in a sense, like a really strong male to the world, to feel that I had so vulnerable and had all my rights taken from me, it still is, was a really hard thing. But for me, it was realizing that vulnerable is okay. In fact, vulnerable is good. Vulnerable is wonderful. And it was actually...
It's the paradox, isn't it? Because your vulnerability showed you your strength.
Exactly. I said, you know what? I realized I'm strong enough to be vulnerable.
Yep.
I mean, that was profound for me, because I wanted to fight and not be vulnerable. But then I realized, really, if I'm really strong, I can be vulnerable.
Yep. It takes a while for people to see that. It takes a while for people to see actually, for me, I really saw that for me to be okay with the pain, that the way in was the way out. I couldn't numb out anymore. I couldn't push it aside. I couldn't pretend it hadn't happened. I had to step into all my pain to learn to be okay, and that was what freed me in the end.
Yeah, so I really think that you have a great message. Could you tell people your websites and more about your book?
My book is called Unbroken. There we go there. And it's available on Amazon or Waterstones if you're in the UK. You can go to my website, which is madelineblack.co.uk. You can find me on Twitter, which is madblack65, or Instagram. I have a Facebook page, which is Madeleine Black Unbroken. On LinkedIn, which I think is where we kind of linked up.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Right on. And is there anything else that you want to talk about, or any questions you have for me?
I would just really want to say to anyone that's experienced rape or sexual abuse, it doesn't matter how long ago it was, it's never ever too late to find your voice. And even if you don't tell a therapist, to find someone that you can speak to, because the silence really hurts us and just protects the perpetrators. The silence is deadly. It really gives them power. So to learn to break that silence, to find your voice, to me there was nothing more empowering for me than to learn to speak out. And I don't expect everyone to be a public speaker like I'm being now, but to really find your voice, to find someone that will listen to you and believe you and to be heard, there's nothing more powerful and healing than that.
Well, thank you for speaking for us.
You're very welcome. It was a pleasure to speak to you.
All right, well, I'll go ahead and say goodbye then. And I will be putting this video up so everyone can enjoy. All right, have a great day.